Hi guys, it's Pam from Dream Come True Farm and Shepherd's Talk. Hi Virginia. Virginia and I are spinning fingering weight, getting ready for our mini event. So we also thought that we should probably put together a little tutorial on how we spin fingering weight with maybe some tips that may help others accomplish that size yarn. So what I'm doing, I'm starting here with roving. This is Pygora and alpaca roving, and I'm spinning a fingering weight. And my way in doing that is all in the draft. I think you can all agree that probably the amount drafting is what's key to determining the weight of your yarn. This, I think, is probably coming out a little too thin right here. So what I would like to try to do is draft a little bit more. Now, I have it on the medium whirl, not the largest whirl, not the smallest whirl, so that I'm getting, you know, not too much of a pull, but then again, not too slow. I think that you really have to play with that yourself. And your tensioning also, you need enough tensioning to, you know, create that little bit of a pull to pull your yarn in. It yanks it out of your hand. So again, I've increased the size of my drafting here, the V right here. See that V coming out? And I'm determining that that's about the correct amount to draft this roving to get what I would consider a, oh, that went a little thin there. So key is consistency. There we go. So slow myself down a little bit. See that V? A little bit of a V there. Draft. And let that twist travel up. Now, let's see what this will look like. I am going to say that this is probably a very good fingering weight. This here has already been pre-measured as a fingering weight, and we are pretty close here, pretty close to the same size. Maybe I could go a little bit thinner with this white. These tools are handy to check wraps per inch. You should have about 12 wraps per inch for fingering weight, which will be very important if you're knitting something that needs to have the correct size yarn, you know, such as a pair of socks. Some things wouldn't matter if you varied, such as a shawl. You wouldn't want to vary too much because you want the look that the pattern is suggesting. But I'm also feeling my tension is pulling it a little too, I'm loosening my tension because I feel like it's pulling it out of my hands and not allowing me to get the exact weight. Now see, this feels better to me. See the draft? Again, you know, if you want to do a fingering weight because you're following a pattern, it would be pretty important to have it come out the exact size of fingering weight. So 12 wraps per inch. Now this is done with roving. You can pretty much do any fiber in fingering weight. Here I have a bat. It's just a big bat. What I'll do is I'll draft a little bit out, attach it, and again, the key will be in how much I draft out between my fingers. See that? I'm working close to the wheel because I want to be sure that you can see, but of course you work wherever you're comfortable with. But this is from a, you know, big giant bat. But again, I'm just allowing see there's kind of a V shape there. I'm trying to judge the exact same amount each time that I draft. This as well is coming out to be the proper size. I'm pretty confident. And you know, you can keep stop and checking on your reps per inch tool just to be sure. But I won't keep doing that so I can, you know, get you through this video with a few different fiber preps, spinning and fingering weight. You know, I'm going to say that's a little too thick. So we're going to draft out finer. You see that? See the difference? Now I'm pretty okay. We'll check that though. I'm drafting out just a little less than I was prior to that. You can see the difference. If you back the video up, you'll see that in between my fingers was a heavier draft. Now I have a lighter draft. You can almost see through it. But don't forget, it looks thin, but this is going to be 2-plied. And here it is 2-plied. And yeah, I would say that this is pretty much right on to this one. So that's done with a bat. Again, it's all going to be in the control of how much you draft out. Let's hook up another little piece, attach a piece. Okay, see that? Now if I go heavier, you see how my draft changed there? My draft really drastically changed to this, which doesn't look too thick, but you ply that and it definitely is thicker. So a heavier draft. Now let's go to that lighter draft. See that? You want to let the twist travel up. You don't want your feet treadling too fast so that the twist will get ahead of your hands here. See that little bit drafting out? It makes such a big difference. See, just a tiny bit. I'm doing just an inch at a time so I can really show you. Now I go thicker, you see? That's not what we want. We want the finer. Okay, now that was with a big bat. Now, we can take our locks. You know, we could take locks, but they will take some preparation. And how I would do it is, I would really fluff them out, hand pick them. See this? I'm going to make a nice little pile of fluff in my hands. Okay, so, you know, if you were doing this and you wanted to use your locks, you could do a nice big pile, but we'll just do a handful for now, for demonstration purposes. Let's attach this and see how this goes. Okay, get this in. All right, I'm going to attach. Now, I've fluffed them out nicely. So look at that. You may get a little bit of curly lock structure in there. You know, tiny curls because they are locks. But the point is you can still spin a fingering weight even with your gently rinsed or raw locks. These happen to be Wensleydale. There's a lot of lanolin left in this. These were rinsed and they rinsed out really nicely. These were from my sheep that was covered over the winter, so she rinsed out very nicely. In the summer, sometimes I do have to gently wash it because she gets a little dirtier. I don't cover her due to the heat. But you see how much I'm drafting out? It's all in the draft. You don't want to draft out too much, Of course, usually we see these locks done as lock spun, a nice bulky textured yarn, but there's no reason in the world that you cannot spin a beautiful fingering weight yarn. Look at that. Oh, and it feels so good. And again, it's pretty much right on to this one. See that? So, let me see. I'll get this in. We'll just fluff another lock. Just one, so you could watch the drafting again. So I've opened them up so that I can draft them easily and control the size of my draft. And here we go. We'll attach it. See, look at that. I mean, it's automatically, don't forget your spinning wheel, your twist, it's automatically going to want to twist that fiber between your fingers. So it's going to all be about how much fiber is between your fingers. It'll take some practice if you're new to fingering weight. But, you know, and don't beat yourself up if it's coming out a little heavier, because it's the start of fingering weight, even if you go a little heavier. So, but again, you can make one of these. We do have them available if you need one, but you can make one out of cardboard if you need. Now, I have comb top here. Comb top, same thing. With comb tops, sometimes you can do a little trick by stripping it down and making almost a pencil roving, so that you can spin a fingering weight with ease. See, I'm drafting out, and I'm only allowing so much to draft out of this piece of comb top. See that? Right here is what you're looking at. Okay, and the twist travels up, and I stop the twist right at the comb top. See, what I draft out, I allow to twist, but then I stop it right here because I don't want it to twist up in here like that, because then I can't draft. You know, I've gotten the twist up here and I can't draft it out. So we're going to try to pull it out here a little bit. It's hard because it's... Alright, so again, back to just allowing the twist to go up to the comb top fluff, the big fluff part. So draft, let the draft twist and stop it up here. Let the draft twist, follow the twist with your fingers if you need to, and stop it up here. Draft, follow the twist, stop it. You'll get used to it where you don't have to follow it with your fingers. You see, it's a feel thing. You'll definitely get used to it, but draft, follow the twist, pinch it off. Draft, follow the twist, pinch it off. Makes it a little easier. Okay, now, another thing, if you're having a lot of trouble, is pull your comb top apart like this. See, look at this. Especially if it's a compressed comb top. Sometimes comb tops are a little compressed. But, so if I strip it down, I barely have to do any work or control even in it. Watch. I don't have to... Okay, we attached it. Now look at this. Just a little bit of a draft. See that? And it's really easy. You could see that I'm barely pulling it apart. And it's drafting nicely. So if you're having a lot of trouble, that's what I would suggest. Start with a comb top and strip it down into little pencil-sized roving. And if you have to, if it's a compressed comb top, take it and pre-draft it a little bit like this. Loosen the fibers so that there'll be no fighting with the fibers to pull them apart, to draft them. See, we'll attach it. Now look at this ease. I'm barely doing anything. I'm following the twist. See, pinch it off. Draft, follow the twist, pinch it off. And eventually you'll just get so used to what needs to be done, you won't have to follow that twist like that, see? You'll just judge when it reaches here, when to draft it out again. So it's all going to be in practice, just like when you started spinning. It's a total practice thing. But let's see. A nice size. I would say a fingering weight. So those are my tips and my method for spinning a fingering weight. I hope this helps you, and go for it. Give it a try.
Hi, it's Virginia, and I'm here to do my part of the spinning a fingering weight yarn tutorial for Shepherd's Talk. I'm going to start today using some roving, Romney roving. It is about 4-inch staple length. There's the staple length right there. What I've done in preparation is I have spun up a sample of the fingering weight that I would like to be duplicating, and this is it right here. I did the wraps per inch on this, and we do have on Shepherd's Talk website, we have a video tutorial on wraps per inch for fingering weight that you can use to review if you need to. It's really nice to have something attached to your wheel that you can use as a gauge. And again, this is a roving, and probably you'll want to play. I play with it a little bit when I'm making my gauge for the wraps per inch, so that I can get sort of comfortable with the fiber and get comfortable with the width that I'm looking for. And then once I do that, once I get back in, so say I had taken a break from this, I would spin a little of it here. I would stop. I would let it twist back on itself, and then I would compare it to what I was looking for there. Now, can you see there? What I just spun is a little bit thicker than what I'm shooting for. Okay, good. So now I know I want to bring this down a little bit narrower there. So when I'm drafting, I want to be a little more careful to keep this yarn consistently a little bit thinner, like that. Now once I start to get comfortable with the dimension of the yarn that I'm spinning, I like to get into a rhythm so that my hands and my feet get into a rhythm that I can duplicate, particularly as I'm using a sort of a short forward draw, which I like to use at least in the beginning because I find I have the most control over what I'm spinning. Well, if you want to spin something thin, you want to be careful that you do not let the twist get down into your drafting zone unless you're doing a woolen, and unless you have the preparation for that. It will just grab too much fiber, pull it into your yarn, and get you up into a thicker diameter than you want to be. Okay, so I'm getting kind of comfortable with this, and I'm going to start just sort of counting here and doing 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm really doing a 3 count, I guess, because it's 1, 2, treadle, 1, 2, treadle, 1, 2, treadle, 1, 2, treadle, 1, 2, treadle. Now let's stop and check this to make sure that that's exactly where I want to be. And indeed it is where I want to be. These two are the same diameter. So that's what I'm shooting for. That's what I'm producing. So you can stay in this established pattern, or you can decide that you'd like to speed your spinning up a little bit once you get comfortable, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to change the ratio on my bobbin so that it is spinning a little faster, and because I think now that I have really got the feel of the fingering I want to spin, I can speed up a little bit. Let's try that. So I will then begin to move my hands a little faster. And I'll still be getting the amount of twist in that I want because I'm comfortable. Now, if you're not comfortable doing that, you can stay going nice and slow, taking your time, getting into a rhythm. But sometimes you just feel like, all right, I've got this. I'd like to step this up a notch. I can add a little more twist and begin to move my fingers a little quicker. And that's where I'd be comfortable spinning this if I was going to spin for a long time. So let's experiment a little bit and let's try a backward draw. Probably fairly short backward draw. I'm going to slow back down to the rhythm that we started the forward draw with, which was kind of a 1-2 treadle rhythm, and try it with a backward draw. You can do this equally well with a backward draw. Okay, now let's see what will happen if we want to play with a long draw. Slow myself way down and let it come. Try it with a long draw. I find that a lot more difficult, and I tend to want to hold on to this a little bit too much. That's a little thin right there. You know what? If I'm going to do the long draw, I'm simply loosening the tension on my wheel. I'd like it to pull in a little more slowly so that I get a little more twist before it is loaded onto the bobbin. There we go. Now we'll get a little more twist built up before this pulls on, which is going to be a good thing. And I'm going to speed up my treadling a little bit. Okay. Speeding up a little. No reason why you can't spin a fingering with a long draw. Your preparation would have a lot to do with whether this will make it successful for you, or easy for you, I should say. You can be successful with almost anything, but is this a technique that you're enjoying and that you're really successful with, and you enjoy? I don't know. This is, there we go. There. There. You can see I'm getting a nice consistent thin fiber with a little more twist. I find because I'm slowing down and because I find I need a little more twist. So let's see how we're doing with this. Okay, so that's the long draw on the left and the short forward on the right. So spinning this silk, even from a cloud or a bunch, the silk is easier to spin a fingering weight because there's so little volume to the silk, it spins down so easily to nothing. You know, right in there, I mean, that's actually too thin for a fingering weight. That's probably more of a lace weight. So when you're doing this, if you're spinning a silk, you know, it slides so easily through your fingers and it compresses completely. And it really doesn't want to fluff up and be bouncy. It wants to compress and spin into something very thin. So it's kind of fun to draft it. This is obviously going to give some texture to the fingering. And I've got just a little too much pull on my wheel here. I'm going to adjust that a little bit. Okay, so we are applying my fingering weight. You know, make sure that I'm not over twisting this. I think I might have to pull this in just a little faster so we're not getting too much of a twist. Yeah, that's much better. As I say, this is a very textured fingering.
Here's a handy tool. It happens to come from Cece's Wool, but it actually gives you slots where you can lay the yarn in and see if you can measure it. And I'm going to slip mine in here to the fingering slot, and you can see it fits in just about perfectly in there. This tool also gives you the wraps per inch on the side, and it gives you a 2-inch slot on the top. So let's go ahead and see how we did wraps per inch wise.
1, 2, 3.
I'm getting about 27 wraps per 2 inches, which would be about right. We'd be in the neighborhood of 14 wraps per inch, which is what we've been shooting for. Sometimes you can squeeze these strands of yarn closer together, really pack them in and get a few more wraps per inch. Other times, if you space them out just a little bit, you'll get fewer. So, you know, it gives you a guide. It's not an exact science, but you do have to be sort of careful that you don't overpack the strands of yarn, and you also don't underpack them. So there can be a little bit of leeway. If you are spinning your yarn for a pattern that calls for a very specific weight, check not only your wraps per inch, but also check your yardage per ounce, and that will help you to create exactly what you like. Good luck!